Let's jump back onto the calls if we can and speak to Rebecca, who wanted to talk to us a little bit about vaginismus. Rebecca, what's your experience?
Hello. Am I really on the air?
You are, yeah. Thanks so much for being here and for being brave enough to talk about a really challenging topic in our culture. I really appreciate you being willing to come on air with us to talk about something that I know a lot of women can feel really shamed and looked down on for.
Yes, I definitely did. That was why I wanted to call in, because in purity culture, like I was raised in it, and they like really sold me on this idea that if you saved yourself until marriage, then you would have this amazing and wonderful and romantic sex life, and it would be the best possible sex that you could ever have. And if you had sex before marriage, then you would ruin it forever, and there would be no getting back. And so I did wait until marriage. I was a virgin when I got married at 19, to no one's surprise. And what ended up happening was I had vaginismus for the entirety of my marriage. And what vaginismus is purely psychosomatic. It's not an STD, but it's when you get like really anxious and scared, and so your vagina like clenches up, and it causes very painful sex. It felt like being stabbed every time. And I was married for 5 years before I finally just gave up. And I just like wanted people to know, because I feel like they don't tell people that that might happen if you save yourself for marriage. They just paint this beautiful rosy picture, and then if you actually do what they say, then it's really, really awful, and I wouldn't recommend it to anybody.
Yeah, and then you can feel as if there is something wrong with you, something broken about you, because you aren't just comfortably
Yeah.
jumping into this magical sexual experience that has been blessed by God and ordained by angels and all of these different things. And I guess I'll just highlight again that, as you said, this is a psychosomatic, anxious type of disorder. And in that way, or for that reason, it can be incredibly challenging to talk about. And it's something that our culture does not do a good job of talking about. So, Rebecca, your bravery and willingness to open up about this topic and hopefully let other people in the audience that no doubt have had the same experience know that this is something that people can experience is just incredibly valuable. If I may, can you share with us anything that you have done, any sense of relief or maybe progress or change that you've seen here?
Like when I was getting to the end of my marriage, I just kind of like gave up on the whole idea of like sexual morality, basically, and I just sort of went to a completely secular idea where, you know, like it's just consent based, basically. And so, like, as soon as I started having sex with other people, like, I never had a problem again. Like, the issue completely went away as soon as I had sex with someone else. But like you mentioned, like, the shame was so bad. I didn't tell anyone that it happened to me at all for like several years after my divorce. I don't even know if my husband knew about it, because like, you know, I could still actually do it. But like, and another part of it was I got married before Google was like really a thing.
Sure.
And like, so I wanted to find out what was happening to me, but I couldn't go and tell anyone because I was too ashamed. And so I went and like tried to find books and stuff. And like, I just really feel like people are sort of hiding this information, because I could find these books on sexual health, and they would have just chapter after chapter on all these horrible STDs and how horrible it would be, you know, if you had sex with someone outside of marriage. And then I managed to find a paragraph in a book that was thicker than a dictionary, like one paragraph. And I was like, oh yeah, that's what I have. And apparently there's nothing I can really do about it. It's just in my head. And it was a really terrible experience. And I just really don't like the way that they don't give you the full information so that you can make your own decision and be like, well, that would be okay. I would like to run the risk of having vaginismus, so I'm going to try to save myself for marriage. Like, they don't tell you that. They just paint this rosy picture, and then when you get there, you can have sexual dysfunction. And like, I've talked to men, like, men aren't exempt from this just because they don't have vaginas. Like, they can get erectile dysfunction and delayed ejaculation. Like, that's their side. And they just don't mention this at all. And I don't like that. So I called and tell you guys.
Yeah, and you are part of the solution here for removing some of that shame and for letting people watching know that this is something that that you can find relief from. So I am just incredibly impressed by the fact that you have been able to overcome this, and incredibly grateful to you for sharing your experience with us. Thank you so much for giving us a call and sharing all that with us.
Thanks,
Well,
Rebecca.
thank you for having me. I just really wanted you guys to know. Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, you have a great night. Thank you again. Yeah, Emily, this is I think a much more common issue than people realize, and something that really loves to live in the dark, that really thrives on shame and on people being unwilling to acknowledge it. So the very fact that Rebecca was able to say it out loud lets me know that she's, made some like meaningful change and progress. But I guess I just want to say to anybody watching, if you are having pain during sex, that's not necessarily a sound the alarm, there's an emergency type situation, but it's probably something to be curious about. And it's likely that there is the possibility of relief, but that's only going to come if you are able to recognize the problem, that if you are able to allow that pain to be there, to investigate it a little bit, and to provide yourself some compassion and to seek out some support. Is there anything else that you might add to that before we take the final call for the night?
Just that it really does matter that your sexual well-being and sexual satisfaction are cared for, right? That there are people who are trained in difficulties. They're probably not as unique as you think.
Mm-hmm.
And that means that there are, well-educated, well-licensed, ethical practitioners, from mental health to medical systems, or physical therapists that can help you learn to live with whatever is distressing you, or live around it or reduce that distress. That there actually is help available. It might take a little bit of difficulty to navigate medical systems and to get access, but you don't have to suffer alone. And that sex isn't something that should be painful in a way that's disruptive to the way that you want to experience it.
Yeah, and we don't have time to do an entire episode about this notion tonight, but you highlighted something here that I think is worth just saying again. It can be really challenging to find medical providers that take women seriously in these types of situations and that are able to be compassionate and provide support. And I hate saying that. I hate even presenting the idea that might discourage women from seeking support. But it is definitely worth it to continue to put that effort into taking care of yourself, even if you run the very real risk of finding a provider that is not respectful